To be a soldier, I want to tell the viewers, is the greatest pride which one carries. From the top general right down to the junior most Jawan, we are all soldiers. And we carry the Naam Namak Nishan of our Paltan, of our army. I would like to quote here a line from that great strategist Clausewitz. He was a Prussian general. He said that war is the continuation of politics by other means. Even Chanakya was in the same mold. When we came back with 93,000 prisoners of war. And these prisoners of war were treated as soldiers as we treat our own soldiers. They tried to repeat the 1947-48 to occupy Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. So that time they used the Kabalis, the Lashkars, whether it's the London Tube or in Spain or anywhere else in Germany, the roots have been in the epicenter of terrorism, Pakistan.
Yes.
So the world has got short memories. They want to forget. India is saying, we are fighting your war. Let's take India forward. On Independence Day, Republic Day, doing the flag. I said, listen, please come out. Don't be in your beds. Be proud of India.
So, Major General, I'm addressing you like that because I think you have more to hold on to your designation, to your awards and decoration you carry. But honestly, it's a privilege. One, not just because you gave me this time, and I'm here to speak to you of something which is of our interest now as a national interest, but also because it is my first time in life that I'm getting this moment to sit with someone who has actually lived his life in the true sense we say, live it for the country or live it for the true values of us being what we are. So with that regard, thank you so much. Thank you for making this time.
Well, Anku, I am very much honored to be there on India podcast. And I understand your government approved. So you have a standing of your own.
Yeah.
And for which I must congratulate you for your diligence to have reached that level. And for me, it's a great honor. And an honor, a man who spent almost 4 decades in uniform. And if I take my education background to the Rashtriya Indian Military College, it spans to nearly 47 years of my life in uniform. So one lived in uniform, and the blood, sweat, and honor is all for this country, the great Bharat.
What makes you feel that, we always want to know as civilians, we always say it's our army men. We have that pride. But I don't know how an army man feels within that uniform. Is it little baggaged? Is it a thing that you take as responsibility with a lot of pain, with a lot of grit? What is that feeling that runs through you, which we don't really understand, but we feel proud of you?
To be a soldier, I want to tell the viewers, is the greatest pride which one carries. It's the pride of your uniform. It's the pride that you shoulder the burden of national security of your country within you. And it is the Tiranga which is so dear to us when we hold it aloft, when we plant it on Kargil heights, and likewise during the wars. It has a special significance. It matters a lot. You see, and a soldier, when I say a soldier, I address this from the top general right down to the junior most Jawan. We are all soldiers. And we carry the Naam Namak Nishan of our Paltan, of our army, as the dearest to us. Now, that is army. It is also said in Hindi, Jazba, Nasha, to be a soldier. So I think we lived our lives like that, and we don't retire. I am a veteran by name, but I'm a soldier at heart, and you never retire. You serve the nation in whatever capacity, and I'm here before you today to project once again our nation in it all its great form, whether it is war, whether it is economy, whether it is a diplomacy, India is a great country. And I say this true to my heart.
I would like to know that we cannot just limit the understanding of a soldier or army only to war or warfare scenario, but I think they understand the other aspect of the country as well. Is it a wholesome understanding when you're trained into it? You're given a wholesome understanding of existence of our nation, or it is just related to the techniques and strategies of the war, of how to protect the country, how to protect the borders? Is it limited in that box, or is it unlimited knowledge and understanding economically, defense, your national culture, everything, every aspect of as we civilians should be aware? How deep is that knowledge and training of our army?
I think
Or
it's a very good question.
Yeah.
And this question is, to me, is identifying you and me to the nation, to the viewers. Well, firstly, I said it's a democracy. So, this democracy is your army. It's a democratic country. It is your army, it's your armed forces, it's your military. And we serve the nation both for its external threat and for its internal security. So we guard the borders, we guard the internal security. And you all have seen, it is not only war. Indian military has been to the fore. You realize when there are monsoon floods, there are earthquakes. In Uttarakhand, we have had so many debacles which have taken place. Who's in the forefront at that time? It is your military, be it the Air Force, be it the Army, be it the Navy Marcos. You see, so Army is there to uphold the national security, both internal and external, and we are 24/7 in service of the nation. Army, military doesn't switch off. There are no holidays. Our holidays are that we serve you, and that is our nasha. So that is it, Anku. Military is all pervading in the lives of Bharat in India. You take away the military and you know okay, what is the vacuum which takes place. And no country in the world, I want to say, country in the world has such service being given by their military, internal and external security, whether it is counterinsurgency, proxy war, counter-terrorism, terrorism, we are there. Whether it is Jammu and Kashmir, whether it is Northeast, we are there. And the nation, I would appeal to the countrymen and countrywomen, be aware of this. We are very proud of our country people. And you, in return, give us back that. That is what the military values most.
You know, such a big Operation Sindoor has been executed by our country now, which has come to more. It came as a realization shock to everyone. It did not come in the face in a good scenario. It came after the Pahalgam, the most shocking incident or the tragic incident that happened. So obviously, this strike back approach which we had in Operation Sindoor. One, I want you to make us understand, how do we look at this operation? Is it a war attack? Is it a counter attack? Is it a Pahalgam revenge? Or is it just a surgical strike? What is the right way to understand any move by the country and term it right? Because that understanding of the right term, we went into a war, we went into an operation of what kind, will help us take it forward to understand how should we look at it strategically. And if you can explain the Operational Sindoor strategic movement, was it a good strategy or was it a good comeback defense attack from the country?
You're putting very good questions and I like it. Operation Sindoor, I should define it as the awakening of Bharat. It broke away from the past. We have broken away from the past of a defensive mindset.
Okay.
We have created a deterrence of a kind which not only Pakistan, but the world is looking at. What is India? What is Bharat? And I tell you, when the annals of military history will be written, Operation Sindoor will stand out, one of guts, grit, and determination from the top, the political hierarchy, the determination and the firm signaling from the military point of view, the synergy, the strategic content which was there, and the delivery. It has been absolutely, I would say, top. It has been well coordinated. It has conveyed what it was aimed to convey. As we go along, I will explain also what was Operation Sindoor. But I would like to quote here a line from that great strategist Clausewitz. He was a Prussian general in the German army. He said that war is the continuation of politics by other means. Even Chanakya was in
Yeah.
the same mold. Now, when we say that, what does it involve? War is the continuation. So it is continuing. Here I would like to define nature of war and character of war.
Yes,
war.
okay.
Nature of war is a permanent. Why? Because war is violent, war is destructive,
Yes.
war is misery. So the nature of war doesn't change. The character of war changes, the forms change. Why? Because technology comes in.
Okay.
So I've taken forward from Clausewitz to
Yes.
nature and character of war. And here I'm reminded of Alvin Toffler, The Waves. We said that how the human society evoluted. The first wave was, we were in the Stone Age. Then came the bows and arrows.
Yes.
So it was brain versus brawn, and brawn was the supremo of that time. Then the second wave came with the introduction of the locomotives, if you recall.
Yes.
It was the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
And when this Industrial Revolution set in, alongside developed the military. If my weapon was a stone and a bows and arrows and spears, now came the machine guns, the
Machine
rifles,
guns.
And the brain started thinking that if I got a rifle or a machine gun and I'm going to fight, so I must dig down in the trenches
Yes.
to protect. And when I fired, I stood up and went down in the trenches. And as you evoluted into the 20th century, then came the tanks.
Yes.
The tank warfare set in. The machine guns had already been there. So tank gave the mobility, took the mobility forward from the horseman, from the cavalier to the cavalier became an armored core tank guy. And the artillery then started firing from those cannons. The guns, which were more technical, which became indirect firing. Earlier they were direct firing.
Yes.
Now you could not see the target, but
Yes.
now that's how the guns were delivering. And the third wave came during this time, I would say the Second World War, when it became the atomic age, when the nuclear bomb was used,
yes.
and alongside came the computers. So that was the third wave. Now I think we are in the fourth and fifth wave, as Alvin Toffler said, the time and space keeps contracting with the change of the society and of the system. So now the weapon systems and the human this thing. So the second wave was brain and brawn evened out, balanced.
Yes.
The third wave onwards, the brain started getting the priority, became more aggressive, and the brawn started going down. So because you're sitting in computer stations, you're sitting back. War is now fought even from war rooms.
Yes.
The lowest level is
Strategies.
functioning behind to give you logistic support, sitting on the computer desk in their operations room.
Yes.
So the brain is now supreme, but brawn cannot be taken away. Why I say that? Because the Indian military or the military has to be physically fit. If you're physically fit, you're robust. And if you're robust, then you're mentally agile. So I've taken you forward on this, how it has evolved. And now if I can cover Operation Sindoor by itself.
So talking about how it evolved into the wave 3 now, you're saying Operation Sindoor has come to that evolved state of the war where artillery evolution has really helped?
Well, artillery is one component of all warfare. You see, the warfare has changed its character many times.
Yes.
The First World War was different. The Second
Yes.
World War was different. Our 1962-65 war, 62 with China was different. The character was different. The 65 war, the 1971 war, the character of war was totally different. The
Yes.
conventional war in its brilliance, where Pakistan was defeated and East Pakistan became Bangladesh. It was a history created in military history in the world annals. A country being created as large as Bangladesh, a large population, and the greatness of the Indian culture in war came out when we gave back East Pakistan as Bangladesh to the government of Bangladesh and came back. And when we came back with 93,000 prisoners of war. And these prisoners of war were treated as soldiers as we treat our own soldiers. The army chief that time, General Manekshaw, later Field Marshal, he said, they'll be treated as my men. I make this point because there's a humanitarian angle in this.
Yes.
And what he conveyed was that these prisoners of war, the men will not sleep on floor. And when they were being repatriated, there were officers, the junior commissioned officers and men, they said, if we were part of your army, we would have been the victors. It is our officers who have defeated us. And that story of Pakistan continues. Their generals are defeating their nation. They are not taking them forward. They are taking them forward in hate and violence. So that's what, we started with Operation Sindoor, but we are really not reached
No,
it.
but that is very nice. Why I'll come back to this because when you define how our army treats war, I think that also defines how we look at the whole idea of hosting or conducting or taking our operations because our approach is very different when we go there.
Let me say what is very close to my heart at this moment, and that is that Operation Sindoor was brilliance personified on the parts of both our political system, our leaders, and our military commanders. It was a great operation. Now, your theme, which you sent to me, was precision, purpose,
Yes.
and patriotism.
Yes.
I liked it. But prefixed to precision, I will say planning. So there are 4 P's to it.
Okay.
Because I'm taking on what you asked me, how it all happened. So 22nd April is a red letter day of tragedy which took place. Proxy war, terrorism has inflicted numerous wounds in the Indian polity. And the culprit is Pakistan, and Pak is supposed to be pure, but they are impurity practicing nation.
Okay.
So this shook the conscience when 26 husbands were snatched away from our dear women, wives, with whom is the land of Durga Mata. It's a land where we worship. So it shook the conscience of the nation across caste, across divisions, across politics. The nation wanted some action, and the government got into action. Prime Minister returned from Saudi Arabia, gave an address in Bihar on 24th April, and that couple of sentences which he took on in English, he messaged to the world, India is on its feet, standing firm. India is now with broad shoulders. I will take forward what my people want. That was the message. And to the people, he conveyed that we are with you. There was impatience. They wanted action. Some would talk the Israeli type.
Yes.
But the same two templates cannot be applied in different environment, in different geographies, in different systems. Israel's well supported by the Western world, particularly America. India supported by its self-reliance. That's the difference. So it was deliberated, and as it was being deliberated, there was a CCS meeting. There was second one on 29th April. The first one was on, I think, 23rd April. And in between 26th April, there was a meeting which was put on the media, on all the TV channels. The Prime Minister, along with his service chiefs, the four of them, including the Chief of Defence Staff, his Defence Minister and his National Security Advisor. What was that message? Was it optics? Not to me. It was a message to the world that if in Bihar what I address, I am with my people and the people be with me, it was here that my armed forces are with me. My sword arm is with me. And I will convey. That was a great message because it went into the world media. I am not speaking to you. I am speaking to my own people. And this deliberation led, when Pakistan knew it is coming up, that Indus Water Treaty, a non-kinetic measure, I have said it was a masterstroke. Whatever may be the politics to it,
Okay.
whatever may be the thing that China is threatening us, they will also, as an upper riparian state, try to, cut off water to us. We are not going to get scared. Let me clarify here that China is an upper riparian state both to the Indus waters and to the Brahmaputra in the northeast.
Yes.
But we are not the lower riparian. China should know this. We are the middle riparian.
Yes.
Lower riparian is on the Indus, Pakistan, their friend, their ironclad friend, all-weather friend. And now their newly created friend, Bangladesh and Brahmaputra. They are the lower riparian.
Yes.
So China should know their steps well. India, with its culture of patience, knows how to work its way out. Pakistan has the advantage of geography. They're exploiting that. And when they're exploiting that, they are also sandwiched between China and America.
Yes.
So they will be hanging by the slender thread. So then came when Pakistan knew that something was going to happen, nothing was happening. And then mock drill was planned
Yes. Oh,
on
that
7th
was
May.
That was such
Huh?
a cover
And
up way
the
to.
Southwestern Air Command was holding an air exercise and NOTAM had been issued. In that, early morning when I got up at 5 o'clock, and first thing these days you do is you switch on your weapon of war, which is of everyone, the mobile. And I found Pakistan perhaps has been decimated. There have been airstrikes and 9 targets along from POK right to
Here
Bhavalpur.
I want to ask you, when you're saying this, that up until now, the other prime ministers in different wars we have been doing, the commands were very different. This time, is it the command that comes from the prime minister that determines the nature of the operation that is held? How important is that directive related to the final strategy that is held out? Because up until now, we have never seen our air forces come up to the space, taking up to the war of this kind, unless it was a surgical strike, a few surgical strikes. So how does that flow, that mechanism flows?
Well, I like to put in the right perspective. Firstly, it's a democracy, and we are a functional democracy. But when I see in the normal way of life, we are also a rowdy democracy. But the armed forces have respected the institution of democracy and its constitution.
Okay.
And in a democracy, the political directive is supreme.
Okay.
And that political directive comes to the armed forces when a military action is required.
Okay.
And then the military interprets it into the strategic aspects how to wage war, what targeting to do.
Okay.
So, to be fair, I will say in 1965, as is true to Pakistan, they tried to repeat the 1947-48 to occupy Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. So that time they used the Kabalis, the Lashkars, irregulars, many in disguise because there were many regular soldiers. 1965, they again repeated, sent Razakars along with their army. Aim was again try to somehow or the other get the Kashmir into their fold. But we had another great prime minister that time. He was Desh Ka Lal, Lal Bahadur Shastri. When they did that and they came in the Akhnur sector, he, a man much shorter than me also, Napoleonic heights, said, go to Lahore. That is another Atut Ang of Pakistan. And Indian military did not fail him. We reached outskirts of Lahore, Barki. The Battle of Barki and Battle of Dogra are in the
Because
folklore.
the objective and the aim was to go
Yes.
and occupy.
And Pakistan then again asked for ceasefire that time.
Okay.
And let me tell you, well, Air Force, I have to be very fair to our sisters thing. Because today I'm wearing the colors of the three services when I address on this podcast. They did a marvelous job. They brought glory to us.
Yes.
We had the Nats, which were old generation fighter aircrafts.
Yes.
And they've matched the American F-86 Sabre jets and downed them. What else you want for the skill of our Air Force, the daring of our Air Force, the dogfights, Pakistan was annihilated.
Yes.
1971 war is a different story. Our Air Force got us the air supremacy, which today cannot be achieved in any war. Russia has not been able to even use it against Ukraine. Israel, for whatever they are a small country, I will say, well, air will not really work to
Yes.
that end. 1971 was air supremacy totally, and Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces, what they did, 13-day war, you go and occupy a country?
So the directive was like that. The
I would say
directive led them to.
It was a lightning strike.
Yes.
13 days, you cross rivers. You occupy Dhaka. You make a lieutenant general who's the army commander there surrender. And that the Lieutenant General Niazi is seen weeping, actually weeping. What else can you do? It was a blitzkrieg of its own kind. And we should be very proud. And so it was a tri-service there. The Navy did a tremendous job off the east coast as well as the western coast. And Karachi was put in flames. They had cut off.
Yes.
So it was a tri-service thing. So this, viewers, is your Indian Armed Forces. And then we came to 99 Kargil.
Yes.
Again, it was treachery on part of Pakistan. But I want to tell our Indian polity, I address to the Indian military, that we should not say that they are deceivers and they are treachery. As a military man, I know treachery is practiced.
Okay.
So I should be on guard. I should be alert. I should be 2.5 steps ahead, like a horse is on the chessboard.
Yes.
So that is it. But then, when we went in Kargil, I being a gunner from artillery, I can say my artillery, the Bofors, delivered the ultimate destruction of Pakistan, and they had to withdraw. And
So
I
the
think-
directives on all these wars were to go invade or to capture.
Yes.
But in this particular strike back, the directive was
so
not.
in each case, now I gave you the directive, political directive, what Lal Bahadur Shastri did.
Yes.
1971 war, Indira Gandhi, also master stroke of diplomacy firstly, Indo-Soviet peace and treaty friendship, which was signed.
Yes.
It was a back. You had, the elephant was riding high with a great power on your back. And it played its role, Soviet Union. That's why Indo-Russian friendship will remain alive. Indo-Russian friendship, I would say, cooperation, strategic partnership will remain supreme in the Indian polity. Uh, that was a political directive. Liberate East Pakistan.
Yes, liberate East Pakistan.
And so it was a war of liberation, and we did it. And I said we had captured them, the 93,000
And this
prisoners of
time
war.
we were not looking for such directive. What was the directive focused on? Was it to counter terrorism?
No, it was liberate East Pakistan. War of liberation for Bangladesh. Mujibur Rahman had won a landslide victory by constitutional rights of Pakistan. He should have been the prime minister of both West and East Pakistan. And it was denied to him. The people in Bangladesh, East Pakistan, Bengalis were subjugated, massacred, raped, and what not atrocities committed on them. And still, today, very sad part of history, after 50 odd years, today they are standing up and trying to mend ways with the perpetrators of the atrocities, cruelties on them, the Pakistan state. Bangladesh people will realize this.
Yes.
That they have been taken up a gum tree by the wrong people. You know,
But coming back to the directives, now you're saying political directives design the operation strategy.
Yes.
Clearly. So this time in Operation Sindoor also it is the political
yeah,
directive.
I'll come to that. So in 99, what happened? The Prime Minister that time gave a political directive, fight the war, throw out what we ever call the occupants who are there on the
Yes.
Kargil heights. But political directive was, do not cross the line of control.
Okay.
It was a very, very tight directive. Neither the air will go across, nor the military. And great Indian armed forces, we implemented the Prime Minister directive in letter, spirit, and word.
Yes.
Now, this time, the political directive was counter-terrorism. Prime Minister wanted to attend to the terrorists. So, the thing was non-escalatory restraint, but target the terrorist centers, terrorist camps, which are the main feeders of terrorists being sent across. And how was that political directive implemented? As I said, it was brilliance. It was brilliance. It was well-oiled machinery, planning. The first P was supreme. The tri-services. You see, with the Chief of Defence Staff, India has now been aspiring to create theatre commands, the tri-services cooperation. And for the last few years now, 5 years or so, we are working in that direction. There have been war games, there have been discussions. But Pakistan has helped us in Operation Sindoor. I don't see, in a very short time, we are going to have theatre commands because it has been now well oiled. We know what is required. The tri-services were right up there. And that image which you all have seen of the war room, where the 4 chiefs are sitting and taking control, monitoring, and directing the war. I think they did not need to direct the war because the generals below, the formation commanders, the theatre commanders, the corps and the division, they played their role as it was identified to them. And mind you, it remained a non-contact warfare. What a great performance from POK right down to Bawalpur. 21 targets, 9 addressed, 12 are awaiting them. I like to say 12 are awaiting them. They'll be given as a gift in terms of firepower, kinetic delivery. If Pakistan crosses any line, then some prashada is awaiting them. Now, so that was the first part. Look at it. To address that precision, your next point.
Yes.
Precision targeting. Precision guided munitions is used. It was hammer and scalp, not hammer and tongs. It was hammer and scalp, the missiles and the bombs which we had, And of course, came into play on 9th, 10th, and 10th May, the BrahMos.
Yes.
The BrahMos, Brahmaputra and Moscow River, the word is derived from that. And again, the Indo-Russian cooperation is supreme out there. So we lived by that. Political directive and operational execution, the strategy.
It is quite synced in. It is very important. Like you told me a story that how I think Duryodhan, and you were telling me that particular anecdote on how important is your directive words, which can define what strategy it can go to. Like it was such a nice
Yeah, I think
story.
you recall to me that I can narrate it. You see, the operational directive from the highest authority is normally three words. The Soviet Union, Stalin gave the directive to Marshal Zhukov to capture Berlin. Three words. Now, Anku recalls to me that Mahabharata story, and here it's in the book, The Difficulty of Being Good by one Mr. Gurcharan Das. So the Duryodhana is the first chapter, and it is narrated likewise that when they are returning after visiting the Indraprastha,
Yes.
Duryodhana and his Mamu, his maternal uncle Shakuni. And what happens there, he asks him when they are returning in the chariot, Ke, Banja, I find that your eyes are red and your belly is boiling. What is the problem? He said, I cannot bear the prosperity of the
Yes.
Pandavas. I simply cannot bear it. So he asked him, what do you want? He said, I want destruction of Pandavas. Three words. And he implemented it. He asked him, how will you do it? He said, very simple. The game of dice will work.
So basically, you're saying how he said led to it. If he would have said, I just want to invade Indraprastha, the situation would have changed. But knowing that this kind of a operation also has a humanitarian undertone, how important and difficult it gets for the military and the army to focus on their precision strategy, keeping the civilians in check, that they are protected as much. What is that part of the decision making and the strategy that falls in place? As you can help us understand. Once the directive comes, it comes, but it is in the hands of the operational strategist.
Uh, I would like to also cover the political directive here because the
Yes.
thing is in print right now.
Okay.
But my own interpretation is destroy terrorist centers. Three words. And that's how the military machinery got into action. We did not, you have addressed the word humanitarian here.
Yes.
We did not, as a nation, wanted to cause any civilian casualties, any collateral damage. We didn't want to address the military targets or the military, whereby we conveyed a great message that it is non-escalatory, it is restrained. Listen and understand to our signal was the message to Pakistan. Restraint and non-escalatory. And this message also went up to the global community.
Okay.
Okay, what India wants, we want destruction of the terrorist centers because the world has forgotten today. Memories are very short. United States did not play up to the Indian concerns before 9/11.
Yes.
Okay, what is terrorism? When it happened, then America went in,
Yes.
came into Middle East, Afghanistan, and it became
It's
a global
just-
war on
yes.
terrorism. Now, since those actions have not taken place, a few take place in Europe, and epicenter and the root of it, whether it was the United States which was targeted in 9/11 or European this thing, whether it's the London Tube or in Spain or anywhere else in Germany, the roots have been in the epicenter of terrorism, Pakistan.
Yes.
So the world has got short memories. They want to forget. India is saying, we are fighting your war. And they have shown little silence when Operation Sindoor was launched. There'll be a wake-up call for them. You see?
But how does it get difficult when you're making such strategies to take care that civilians are in the safeguard? Like you said, it has to be non-escalatory also. How much of that civilian aspect has to be into the minds of the military and the army when they strategize, and how do they work around it? You have a pressure, so it's a heavy pressure situation. How does it operate?
So your theme, precision along with purpose.
Yes.
Precision with our planning, with our identifying the weapon systems which we are
Yes.
going to use, They gave you, okay, we will only address the terrorists. They are not civilians for us. They are our enemies. They are the ones who are bleeding us. And so it was identified. So it did not matter whether they were in Subhanallah mosque there, because it by name infrastructure it is Subhanallah mosque. In practice, it was the terrorist hideout, den, like that. So we addressed them. So there were no civilian casualties as such.
And in the counter attack, we had to protect our civilians as well. So there was a.
Yes. You see, now when you say that, we have not addressed anything on night 6th, 7th May.
Yes.
And 7th, 8th May, Pakistan did not receive the signaling correctly, and they came to us with their missiles and drones and all. They tried to, retaliate. They wanted to show to the domestic audience that we can retaliate. So when they came, our systems played up, our air force, our air defense system. And let me tell you here, our air defense has turned out to be the shield of the nation. It is the true shield of the nation. What marvelous job they have done. Integrated air command and control system. Combination of Air Force and the Army along with Navy where required. Four-layered defense system combined with an excellent command, control and reporting system with Akash Tir.
Yes.
Certain weapon systems, I'll come along this thing. But each one of them played, the Air Force system, the Pachora missile, our CAP, combat air patrols in the air, our AWACS, they were all there to protect. And then the Air Force missile system, then our air defense missile systems, and Akash, both with the Air Force and the Army, did a tremendous job. And why I specifically mention Akash, it is indigenous. It is indigenous.
Yes, it is our.
And the director, Dr. Prahlada Ramarao, I happened to meet him now just about, I think, 15 days back. I was sitting with him and I had a talk with him. Firstly, I felt it's a great honor to meet a man. He was the director of Akash. And he told me, before he went and talked on the stage, he said, I told a colleague who joined, okay, look, our boss is Dr. Abdul Kalam. And he said he heard it, so he called him. He said, listen, I'm not your boss. Do you know who's your boss? So he was quiet. Abdul Kalam told him, Akash is your boss. And he said, I lived my life thereafter. Akash is my boss.
Wow.
That great man who also became president of India.
Yes.
He'd done wonders. And here it is, man acknowledging him. So Akash is a great system. It's a world beater. It will be a part of the nations asking for it. And then we had, back to Russia, the S-400 missile system.
Everybody's inquisitive about this great missile
Yes,
system.
it's a great system. And our own, look at the Indian mind. I would like to say Jugaad. Jugaad. Field Marshal Slim, in his book Defeat into Victory, he was the commander of the 14th Army in Burma campaign, British Indian Army. He wrote in his book that Indians are masters, the Indian soldiers are master of innovation. Innovation in Hindi is Jugaad.
Yes.
And Jugaad, there are many books. England today practices Jugaad as a syllabi in some of the places. Okay, what is this Indian mind? So it worked. L-70 guns, which are more than 50 years old, are generals. I give credit to the air defense. I give credit to the research and development. They upgraded it. And in the instant case, over Amritsar, we have all seen how Pakistan is believed to have tried to target the Golden Temple also. And I can believe that because in Punch, they destroyed part of Nagali Sahib Gurdwara, which is the seat of the J&K Sikhs.
Yes.
And they address some masjids, some temple. So if they are trying to do that, then all the system came into practice. They're upholding the sanctity of the sanctum sanctorum of the Golden Temple, and to the world, it's a revered spiritual
With
place.
this kind of a display of our system, defense system, and the great missiles you have mentioned, supersonic missiles we own, can we say we are going to turn around our boat from being an importer in the defense market to an exporter? Do you see that we can work that vision, or at least look at that part now?
Okay, but before that, I have not completed. I just want to tell you that air defense I covered only the air defense across from Bhuj, Kutch, right up to the Kashmir area was covered by our air defense. Not a single damage caused. Their drones, their missiles were all intercepted and destroyed. Air defense lent the turning point to the war. Ask me how. There was a Fateh 2 missile which was fired, which was intercepted on 9th May, or no, on the 10th of May,
10th of May.
in the morning at Sirsa, targeting Delhi. That drew the red line. And the turning point for that was served by our air defense. And the turning point, the window of opportunity, the strategic flexibility, the strategic resilience, the leadership which came to the fore, the military leadership. They then on 10th May decimated Pakistan military bases, air bases. The Noor Khan, which is as close to Islamabad, Rawalpindi, and then it turns out the Kirana Hills,
Yes.
which Americans got worried. They must answer us why they got so much worried. The nation wants to know from America why they got so much worried about Kirana Hills. So, what India did that time, daytime strikes, the BrahMos. What a massive display of leadership, military leadership.
What
And
is that
when you
trait?
do,
What
when
is
we are
that-
saying this military leadership,
Yes.
I will say it's a fine tuning with the political leadership.
I want to know this. In these kind of operations, the trait of military leadership, what is that is indispensable or non-negotiable from your point of view? Which you said was the turning point, right? Window for opportunity, the sync-in tuning between the political directive and they taking the call. I mean, this moment that they recognize, now we're gonna remove their bases. How does this work? What is that trait which is non-negotiable? And
What is non negotiable in leadership,
yes,
whether it is political or military, is resoluteness, firmness, sticking to your aim. And if that aim requires some flexibility,
yes,
within instant seconds, in this in the centric warfare, what we call the network centric warfare, it has to be instantaneous. It has not to be isolationist. It has not to be linear. Okay, I'm checking out what has to be done. And that's how it happened. And that is why leadership has to be absolutely, these are non-negotiable terms. It's my military operation. It is non-negotiable. I am not going to turn left or right until unless the situation so demands. And that is what delivered the goods. And the Prime Minister, having said that he's given a free hand to the services, I'll say still an interplay. When you have a free hand, doesn't mean that I can go helter-skelter. It is an interactive thing where I say I'm doing this and the signal is go ahead. You do it.
Yes.
You're delivering. Hammer them.
so
Do
there,
it.
there is no war in between. They have to be on the same page as quickly as they can.
Absolutely. And you have to repeat that other previous question because I wanted to cover the air
but
defense.
I will come to that because you've led me to what we want to go in sync with is about after this sync in leadership trait, because that is important for us to know what trait is important. We want to know about the narrative control and the information warfare. How important it is today to understand this narrative control and information warfare. How do we play around it?
Okay, it's a very good question again. And
Because see, we are in the, as you spoke about technology, evolution in our artillery system, evolution in our missiles, and what how it helped us to grow in our approach to war. It is important to know how digitalization and computerization, all these world is also playing a role in the warfare that we are talking about, information warfare.
Anku, I must compliment you when you take a rabbit out from your sleeve and come out with some very good, fresh
No,
questions.
because your content is so intriguing and your talks are so intriguing that I have to make sure that I don't leave you with that thought.
Okay, now, you see, today narrative has found a very ecne place, or I would say top place in war.
Yeah.
It matters. Wars, the victory and defeat is also not on ground and space. It is also now being measured in this current context of new era warfare in terms of the narrative control.
Yes.
I would like to compare narrative control, how good a job our lawyers do when truth and lies are submerged
Yes.
into one like Sangam, and you do not know what is truth or lies. Narrative control is something
like
like that. I'm
that.
putting it in the simplest terms. This warfare has reached a era that it is not measured in occupying territory. It is not measured in taking surrenders. It is not measured how many kills I've had. It really does not matter. It's
Okay.
not the kill. It is what my long term aim is in military also. If it was terrorists, how long this killing of terrorists will keep the heads down in terrorists? Why related to terrorists? Because that was our mission.
Yes, that was our goal.
Prime Minister also said we will root it out.
Yes.
But there are two steps ahead in rooting it out. We destroyed the terrorist camps.
Yes.
They are still existing. Why they are existing? Because the madrasas had created 2-3 generations to come
Yes.
terrorists. It is the Frankenstein which the state, the deep state, Pakistan, ISI and the army have created. To root them out is a business of Pakistanis because they're breeding snakes in their backyard.
Yes.
Now, with having said this, there is an ideologue behind it, the leaders, in this case the Pakistan military, the ISI, led by their field marshal today,
Yes.
supported by the puppets, the prime minister and others. But then there is the ideology in terrorism.
Yes.
So
plays
defeating
a
that, rooting that out, is a work in hand which Indian state has to live with it.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to live. You cannot select your parents.
Yeah.
So India has to live with its neighbors. So with this in backdrop, I would say the narrative control. Pakistan, those terrorist camps are destroyed on first night, but they come out the next day and they give a narrative. Okay, they are down 5 of our aircrafts. They have done this much of damages have been done on India. And that is where in our aura of having destroyed the terrorist camps, I think our narrative control missed a bus at that time. We should have retaliated. We came up later showing satellite images and that. There was some French this thing who tried to depict the thing. But there are couple of great write-ups which have come from the King's College. There's one professor, Walter Ledwig.
Okay.
He's covered it very well. And he said, if there are losses or damages, so be it. India has achieved its aim.
Wow.
King's College, British, whom we
I
don't
think
default.
that's a great way to give
yeah.
back to their narrative
Yeah.
control in giving the right that we aimed and we achieved.
Yes.
Now you can build up around
Yes.
it.
The Tom Cooper, which is there, who said that it is not so.
Yes.
So, see, and then there was a narrative. Okay, the Chinese aircraft has beaten the French Rafale, the J-10C versus Rafale. It is not so.
It is not so.
So
it is very important to control
Yeah.
the narratives and information
Yeah.
warfare that goes around.
So the narrative control becomes that much more important. And, I think the lesson in this is, in the
Yes.
narrative control or narrative warfare, that strategic communication, I call it strategic communication, is paramount in today's world to show what you have done. It is not I go and put a flag on Siachen Glacier, that today I occupied it, or the Kargil Heights, or I go on Mount Everest and plant the Indian flag there. That is symbolic. Along that symbolism has to be the digital representation or showing what is actual. And that is where strategic communication assumes great importance. And with my due deference, I want to say to the people who matter, they have to attend to it. The
Yes.
perception is formed very early
Yes.
through communication.
And media discourse.
Yeah, and media discourse, all that. So this
is
perception which is formed early has to be now controlled.
Yes.
And for that, we have taken steps. We have sent our parliamentary delegations.
Yes.
And how they can tell the world what it was, why this Operation Sindoor was launched. It was launched with no collateral damage.
Yes.
We respected humanitarian, it was a humanitarian effort, which is so dear to us. It is so dear to us. And so, what is the lesson in the narrative control? I will also tell what are the lessons in the Op Sindoor per se. This is part of Op Sindoor, that at the national level, we should legislate a body which controls strategic communication.
Yes.
And that body should have members from across the field. The Foreign Service, the bureaucracy, the military, the scientific thing, behavioral sciences, psychologists, the legal luminaries, influencers which are there
Yes.
today on your Twitter.
They
and all.
really need the right guidance.
So we need all these people so that we should be on ball on this right from the time when we started
When we
preparation
started
for Op
preparation.
Sindoor. And Pakistan is a master of lies and propaganda. There was Dr. Goebbels
Yes.
in Hitler's Germany, the Führer, the Nazi Germany. And Dr. Goebbels was supposed to be the propaganda master who was unsurpassed in his time. We have to be the granddaddy of Dr. Goebbels in the times to come, so that we beat Pakistan in the game and we beat China. They are another master of disinformation.
Yes.
So that is the importance of narrative warfare. And we must do it. And I'm sure the delegations are gone will return with an achievement where India will be back in the narrative also. Because we are speaking the truth.
Yes.
But truth today is the first casualty. It is said in war and in peace also.
Yes.
So we have to defeat the lie with our truth. That's the message I'm giving here. And if you want to ask me about Operation Sindoor, I think there's a lot of lessons come out in that.
I think Operation Sindoor message you've given me in every step, because every step you've defined, you've given me a message what we should take back from it. But I want to know, as a country, we have a leader now, how important, you are from military army background. You are a major general, you know it. How important it is for the India Inc., the next generation, to have a leader with that and a military discipline together to make this country go robust. So what is your take on the new India Inc.? With what kind of discipline, character we should be walking ahead? Because it is not just about one operation.
So when you say India Inc., it is our youth.
It is the youth, it is the startup world we have, it is everything, because economy is playing as important a role for us as much as to be robust on our borders and defend the boundaries.
So
What kind of leadership, military discipline, leadership quality, or how important it is to have that today to win over the world as a whole?
I'll
holistically?
answer this question. There's one question missed up which was very dear to me, and
Which is that?
we went on to air defense, and that is armament. You said armament export and import.
Yes, we will come back. I have not forgotten that.
Okay.
I know
So,
there you will be giving me a real important insight, but this is important for
so-
me to know
Yes.
where the leadership, because you've kept on saying during our whole operation execution that there was a great sync between the political world and the executioner, the army chief, and the operation team. That sync in is very important. So when we are running a country, that leadership sync in of the quality of a military man is also important.
You see, we are having a leader who has taken forward the mission of making India great.
Yes.
And that mission is very much there. We are seeing how it is paying up in our infrastructure,
Yes.
in our taking the development forward, in our military defense acquisitions also, which I imply also the Atmanirbhar defense.
Yes.
The India has been counted as a fulcrum, I say, because of its strategic autonomy in the strategic geopolitical field.
Yes.
G20 was one example of it.
Yes.
We took the nations along,
We've
and we
taken
took
the nation.
Russia also on board to their satisfaction, so
Yes.
that the nations of the G20 fell in line. Now that is
Yes.
leadership, the firm leadership. And the other things, and there are always pluses and minuses in the nation's life which take place. Now to the India Inc., the youth, you are also a youth.
Yes.
The message is be shoulder to shoulder. Do what you can do for India and don't ask what India is doing for you. It is the words I'm repeating of what John F. Kennedy had said. Okay, don't ask what American can do for you. Tell what you can do for America. But I am repeating those words, do for India. So I think that you have got a lot of space. Our startups
Yes.
is a major space. And I tell you, the youth is doing a tremendous job. I gave a couple of talks in leadership and some places, and there the organizers had honored the startup people. In one place there were 8 of them, in another were about 10 to 12.
Yes.
And I was startled and felt proud that such good work is being done by startups.
Yes.
Pioneering work.
Yes.
And I'll
Innovation.
give you example of our drones itself. Today, there are about 550 firms, perhaps, making drones across the field, whether it is agriculture, industry, medical, and all that, And out of that, it will be safe for me to say about 30% of them are in the defense.
Yes.
So we're making drones of all kinds, kamikazes, killer drones, the likes of them, reconnaissance, surveillance. So if they are there, that's a message. Come on, get up and start doing, the young youth. There's a story. If a horse can pull 1.5 times its weight.
I don't know.
So if it is, a horse is 1500 kgs, so it can take up to
4,100.
about 2.5 tons.
Okay.
And if there are 2, it does not double up, it multiplies.
Multiplies.
And if there are 4, it multiplies.
Multiplies.
And those are the draft horses, incidentally.
Yes.
So be those draft horses, be shoulder to shoulder, make the chain and pull along together. Let's take India forward. Let's not only talk, let's take India forward. I tell people when I'm here in the RWS and all also, that on Independence Day, Republic Day, doing the flag drill, I said, listen, please come out, don't be in your beds. Be proud of India.
We should not remember it only when we see a big operation happen. I think it should become the fashion that we wear with
Yes.
pride and not just in the
So
situation.
that is my message to the youth.
But I will not let it go with that one story that one important understanding we want to know about the defense. We turning from importer to exporter. Will this steer around? And what is your look into it? And how long can we take around that?
Well, the Atmanirbhar defense, which has come up, Atmanirbhar has also come up in other fields.
Yes.
But Atmanirbhar defense is very important. I want to tell the nation, I want to tell the viewers that no nation has become a great power which is not a major armament exporter. The big tickets in armaments and defense is our aim and should be.
Yes.
We want to be a big power. We have got the economy backing it.
Yes.
So, when the economy is backing it, I want to appeal to the decision makers, to the government machinery, raise our defense budget. 2% is ancient. Make it 3.5%. Your R&D should get 40% of that, the increase. Because that is where you're going to design, develop, and produce. I'll give an example. Look, we are wanting to make aircrafts, the stealth
Yes.
aircrafts, but we are not making air engines. Design, develop, do. That AQ Khan was supposed to be in Pakistan, beg, borrow, steal. They said he stole the nuclear secrets. But it was also that it was latently done along with support of China and America. So we must come up with air engines is my main thing to say. Because once we have got that, then we are not going to look for we are not going to look for F-35 or J-20 of China and even Su-57.
Yes.
We need that, but at the moment we need support. Now, so armament exporter. And where is India on that? We are right on ball.
Okay.
We are right on ball. And how? Look, I think about 2 years back we had armament exports worth 17,000 crores.
Yes.
Last year or the current year at zone, it is 23,000 crores.
Yes.
So we are going. It is, and it will double up. You will see next year. It will not. It will be at least 1.5 times. And so maybe
It
there
multiplies.
are small assemblies in that. Good enough. When I say small assemblies and all, even we are exporting to America. They should remember
And
that.
our supersonic missiles are looked out for, as you
Yes.
said. So
Yeah, you see now look what our BrahMos is. World beater, 2.8 up to 3 max, 450 kilometers. Can't be detected. Accuracy, 1 meter of its circular error of probability. Your Akash, your Tejas, they are all coming up.
Yes.
And I'm sure, you see, your INS Vikrant, your nuclear submarines. It is not only the military, our artillery, right on ball, 155, 52 caliber, Baba Kalyani, Bharat Forge. World beater, we'll be exporting artillery guns to the world. The orders will come as it will be. For BrahMos, there are 17 countries lined
Yes.
up. They want to buy off us. We are already exporting of some of these equipment to Armenia, and the Philippines have got the BrahMos. Tejas has been asked for by
Yes.
nations. I'm sure it will come up. US should cooperate. We have got into a strategic partnership with them. They have delayed supplying us F404 engines. It should be a wake up call. If we have got a comprehensive strategic partnership, one presidential quote or talk will not change the American strategic partnership, which is en route to greatness. That's the message I am giving to America also in my small capacity.
thank you so much, Major General. There's so much more to talk. If I could spend more time with you, I would now want to move on to, knowing the Operation Sindoor and the country and our army strategy, to knowing you much more, much better into your journey. But we want to leave that for the next conversation we have, because I'm sure we're going to have a trail of podcasts coming up soon with you to understand how it really makes you the person you are. You gave us what you are, but we want to go on the journey of knowing how you became who you are. So it really gets us into the understanding of the deep root. So thank you so much to not just let us into Operation Sindoor, but let us into the mind of a military man, army man, a man who's decorated with so much of rewards and awards and accolades, and you decorate us.
I only want to say one thing. I'm the small person that I am, and I'm a very proud Indian, and which you all are also. And be a proud Indian. Let's make our country great. Make India great is my last message. And Jai Hind.
Thank you so much. And we hold our army with pride every day from now on. It should not be only limited to the achievements that we see on the front, on the borders in the front. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anku. It's
was
been
a
an honor to be with you. It's been very stimulating. It's been very stimulating. I did not know the volley of questions which are going to come in between, and some of them
I think I was just, I played
left
around.
unanswered in full capacity.
Yes. But we get more time. I'm sure we're looking forward to more sessions with you. And we're going to go back to each one of them in depth.
Chalo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.